This is Michael Lukes, Programs Manager for the Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization. I'm joined by Sheryl Hunter, Founder and President of Hunter Business Law, which works exclusively with small business owners. Sheryl, thanks a lot for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Tell us a bit about yourself and Hunter Business Law.
Okay, well, I would say the first thing to know for the Collegiate Entrepreneurship Organization is that I absolutely love everything about entrepreneurship. I'm one of those people who is looking for Entrepreneur Magazine and Fast Company and reads them from cover to cover and loves to talk to people about starting and running businesses. So for me, I've had the good fortune of being able to practice law in a way that feeds that interest of mine. So by working exclusively with early stage startup businesses and as well as companies that are looking to exit and get a return on their investment of their time and money, I really enjoy being on the ride with them. So been very blessed in that respect. I started Hunter Business Law in 2000. We have 3 attorneys and a paralegal, so we're certainly also a small business and have our challenges as well that we work through. I live in Tampa, Florida, and I have 2 children. I'm married, and my children are a son who's 11 and a daughter who's 10, and also very active in different civic organizations. So that's the niche. Practiced law for 19 years, and I went to Georgetown. So I think that gives you enough background.
Definitely. Starting in this practice can often be tough in the beginning. How did you come to work with solely small business owners, and how has this strategy benefited your practice and personal brand?
Well, that's an interesting perspective, and I understand why people think it is hard to niche into a certain practice area because, there's a fear, well, if I only practice in one area, then I'm not getting the work from, other things that maybe I could do for people, and then they're not going to call me. And I have a very different take on niche businesses. I actually think it's much easier to be in a niche business, both at the beginning and at really all stages of the process. And it's especially true now in the era of the Internet. And I say that because people can find you, and they are looking for someone who's truly focused on exactly what it is that they need at that time and what they're looking for. So, let's take keywords for an example. So, if you're opening a business and you're going to do lots of different things. So for me, I used to also do real estate and estate planning and business law. Very common to blend those 3 practices together. But when you're trying to do search engine optimization and use keywords and brand your business, to try to capture all 3 subject matter areas using keywords and have an effective website that drives, has blogs on all the different subjects, and it's difficult. So to pick one area and really become a master with deep knowledge of that one area and pick something that people can see that you're really passionate about that one area or product, that opens doors to a lot of different opportunities that might not otherwise exist if you're sort of diluted in terms of both your business brand and your personal brand. So I highly encourage people to focus on an area, get deep knowledge of that area, and it doesn't mean it's the only thing that you'll do. So, for example, my background in real estate, I had been general counsel for a real estate developer, and for 20 years my family's had a commercial real estate business. That background comes in extremely handy for small business clients because they are either leasing commercial space and they need their commercial leases to be reviewed, or they're buying a commercial building, or they may be buying a business and some of the assets of that business might be real estate. And so I still use those skill sets. Same with estate planning. I still use those skill sets because I do a lot of business succession planning for my clients. And it doesn't mean if somebody says, well, can you do the real estate side of this, that I would say no. I'd say I will do it in the context of serving small business clients. So, again, I really encourage people to actually narrow the focus of their business. You'll still get tangential opportunities, even if you're not branding yourself more broadly.
And that's great advice. That's often a plight of many young entrepreneurs, is spreading themselves too thin by worrying about possible potential customers that they're not serving, because they're not trying to target every single market out there, instead of really having a focus and growing their brand by embracing special focuses.
Well, especially like if you think about a market that has a lot of competition in it. So let's say that you're going to do IT services. It's a pretty saturated market in a lot of ways, but if you come into that market with one extremely specific need that only your company is focusing on and providing at an optimal level in terms of cost and service and efficiency, and you go into the marketplace with that product line or that service line and you start to capture some market share, then you can fold in other things that you do, but you haven't tried to compete in a broad way that's, again, diluted, and now you're being compared to companies that have been around a lot longer and have better name recognition. So it is a way to, by heavily niching yourself, it is a way to also penetrate a market and then expand what you do.
While working with small business owners, what are common traits you have recognized shared among successful entrepreneurs?
Well, there's so many different types of entrepreneurs. It's a little bit tricky, but I'll give you 3 that come to mind. The first one I would say is that you have to have a service or a product that people want. That sounds obvious, but the reality is that no matter how good you are, how well-funded you are, how great you are at executing on your vision, you may not be able to sell ice to an Eskimo. It just, people come up with ideas and they think that other people are going to want what they're offering. At the end of the day, they could be wrong. And so they have to really start with fundamentals of somebody wanting the product or service. So I highly encourage people to do some market research. And I believe in going with your gut. Doesn't mean you never want to try something, but at the end of the day, you can't force people to buy some service or product that they just aren't interested in. So I think that's one thing is, and certain entrepreneurs have a real gift at identifying unmet needs in the marketplace, and exploiting those needs. So that's part of it is actually being able to recognize where there is an unmet need in the marketplace. The second thing is they have to be able to articulate their vision for their business. If you don't have an effective pitch that people can understand very quickly and easily, it's going to be very hard to do just about anything. You need to have a vision for your business and an ability to pitch it, whether you're just out networking, if you're trying to get funding, if you're trying to hire and inspire quality people to work for you, if you're trying to sell your product or service. You've got to have, and successful entrepreneurs do have, clarity and quality pitches that people go, wow, that's interesting, I want to learn more. The third thing I would say I see as a common trait, and this might be the most important one, is a desire and a capacity to keep learning and keep listening and to have enough curiosity to hear what other people, even if they're contrary views, have to say. So, the very process of entrepreneurship, it's a little bit like, I guess, being like a scientist. You have a hypothesis. You've got to test that hypothesis, and then you have to actually watch for what the test results are so that you can adjust what you're doing based on the findings. And for entrepreneurs, those findings come in a lot of different forms. They come from whether people are buying or not buying your service or product. They come from whether your salespeople are telling you that the pitch isn't landing well, or that the packaging isn't working right, or that the pricing seems wrong and people aren't interested. Or somebody just gives you advice that maybe you don't even really respect that person's opinion, but it may be so contrary to what you think that you ought to pause for a second and say, you know what, let me think about that. It never came to my mind, but let me analyze that, and don't just disregard what other people have to say. So Those are three traits that I've seen in successful entrepreneurs.
On behalf of the Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization, I want to thank you again for agreeing to speak at the upcoming 2014 CEO National Conference, co-hosted by University of Tampa in Orlando. What do you plan on sharing with the students and young entrepreneurs in attendance?
Well, I'm going to be doing 2 sessions, and I'm also doing some mentoring, so I'm looking forward to talking one-on-one as well as doing the sessions. But the sessions that I'm doing, there are 2 of them. The first one is what I call the partner trap, and so it's avoiding and escaping the cons of business co-ownership. And the second one is the entrepreneur's guide to attorneys, how a good attorney can be your best business partner. So let me talk about the first one first. The partner trap, escaping the cons of business co-ownership. That sounds like I am very anti-partner and partnering, and I'm not per se. I think that you have to partner with people, but there are a variety of different ways to partner and to collaborate to build an effective business. Too often, though, I see people go very casually into actually sharing equity, true shared business ownership with maybe a best friend or even or a spouse or someone that they don't really know that well. And they, not unlike jumping into a marriage, they jump into a partnership without the proper planning, without the proper, what I would call a business prenuptial, and they find themselves hitting a lot of snags in the road, having a lot of discomfort with the relationship, and it can cause huge challenges, especially in the early stages of a business. It can be really detrimental to that business ever being successful if you don't have a healthy partnership relationship. So I'm going to be talking about the different types of personalities that I've seen that have come together as partners and sort of why those different blends of partners have worked and why they haven't worked, and just give people really a sense of what to watch for. I'm also going to talk about what I say is the prenuptial for a business partnership, which would be having a really solid and detailed operating agreement for a limited liability company. It's also called a shareholder agreement for a corporation. And then finally, I'm going to talk about if you find yourself in a partnership, business co-ownership that is not working, how you can escape that partner trap. And so it's sort of what are the different versions of a business divorce. So those are the things I'm going to be talking about for that topic. And then the entrepreneur's guide to attorneys, how an attorney can be your best business partner. A lot of certainly students have probably never worked with an attorney, certainly not a business attorney. So I'm really trying to just educate them on what to expect in terms of not only fee arrangements, but the overall accessibility of that attorney, what doors they should be opening for you, what kind of services related to an entrepreneurship venture would you turn to an attorney to help you with. So it's really just educating the audience on how to effectively work with a business attorney.
Now, collaboration can help produce amazing, ideal outcomes. Why do you warn against partnerships for young entrepreneurs?
Again, I think it's just like, for many people before they would marry someone, there's pros and cons to marriage and there's pros and cons to a business marriage. And so I do believe that collaboration is essential, but there's I've had at least 4 clients in the last year who have gone through extremely painful, emotionally, financially, business divorces. And so I think that you have to be warned against them enough to evaluate whether the pros of owning a business with another person or several other people outweigh the cons. And if they do outweigh them, that's fine. If you go into it with good partnership agreements and clarity of how money is going to be brought into the business, who's actually funding it, who's doing what sweat equity, for how long, what's going to happen if a partner dies or becomes disabled, or how are you going to handle disputes, if all those things are talked about up front and dealt with, and you still believe that you're going to have more pros from the relationship than cons, then absolutely that can be favorable. The other thing is that there's so many ways to collaborate without actually owning a business with someone. You can contractually get into a strategic partnership that's a win-win without merging your companies or actually owning them together, which is harder to get out of. So it's not that I am warning them because I want them to go into it with the knowledge that if they had that knowledge and they applied it, if they would walk away from the partnership, then they should do it before they even get started.
Great. Why is an attorney an important aspect of a startup?
Well, we at Hunter Business Law I have such a strong feeling that your business attorney should be your best business partner. And the reason that I say that is, again, we don't own in your business, but we certainly have fiduciary obligations to represent you and protect your interests and to advise you on your journey of entrepreneurship. And a really good business attorney who's well-connected can open a lot of doors for you. I mean, one of the things that we focus a lot on is not just providing the legal services, but also connecting our small business clients to other service providers that can help them, whether those are our marketing and website design professionals or CPAs are certainly essential, people who may be able to provide capital, bankers, so that we become sort of an extension of their reach to other service providers that they need. So I spend a lot of time on that, and I think that a good business attorney for startups really should be providing that as a value-add service. The reason it's essential is that there's so many issues that someone wouldn't know about that are legal issues. So, for example, when you start up an LLC, yes, you can go online and form your LLC, like in Florida, on your own, but do you really know whether you want to be member managed or manager managed or what that distinction even is? Do you know whether your LLC should be taxed as an S corporation or a partnership, or that you even have a choice to be made on that front? Do you understand what should go into an operating agreement between you and your business partners? Do you know what terms to put in a contract to protect you if something goes awry with the client that you're providing services to? Do you know what venue means? All these kind of issues are just not top of mind for someone who's not an attorney, and the risk is you don't know what you don't know. So if anything, an attorney can be an excellent issue spotter for you and help you figure out what you need to do and what you shouldn't be doing.
And what is the biggest overall mistake you recognize young entrepreneurs making in regards to finding legal help?
Well, sometimes they actually don't find legal help from an attorney. They find legal help on LegalZoom, and I'm not certainly bashing those companies. They serve a function and a role, but I think I just reviewed a partnership agreement that one partner proposed to my client. They're not in their partnership arrangement yet, but he sent it over, and he had taken a form from the United Kingdom and just, found a form online, downloaded it. So it has that if any disputes arose, it would be settled in England. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think that's the intent. It used a lot of verbiage that wouldn't apply in the United States. Now, that's an extreme example, but I've seen plenty of instances where someone will say, oh, well, my friend who also started his own business, he gave me the legal forms that he was using. I just used his contract and just kind of changed it, or I found a contract online. And the problem is they don't usually know how those things are going to be playing out, how those terms actually play out. I'm also a litigator, and I've been a litigator for 19 years. So I know when I look at a contract what sections could not play out well in a court of law. And there's no way to know that just going online and finding downloadable forms on some website. There's no advice that comes with that. And so I think the mistake I see is that young entrepreneurs take a do-it-yourself approach to their legal needs, and so they're building their business on a very shaky, unhealthy, risky foundation, and it devalues their company, and at worst, it could actually lead to the complete shutdown of their business.
What is your best overall piece of advice for young entrepreneurs?
Have fun. I mean, it really should be a fun process. You're going to work harder than you could ever imagine you're going to work. There's times where you're going to feel very discouraged, but at the end of the day, this is a short life that we live, and at this stage of my life, I feel that more than I certainly did when I was in college, but I think that, you know, you should have fun with it. And it doesn't mean being a reckless risk taker, but it does mean that if you really have a passion and an interest and you've done your research and you can pull it up, get together, you should go for it. Just be ready to change and pivot if the writing's on the wall that it's not working. And be okay with that. Be okay with saying, you know what, I tried it and it didn't work. One of the things I see people do is they hang on too long to a business that is not going well. And I've done this myself. I've had some startups myself, and one of them, I stuck it out for almost 4 years, and I should have shut it down after 2. But I was so committed psychologically to that business that I put a lot of money into it. So I had a hard time walking away. So I would say that enjoy the ride, but get off the ride sooner rather than later if it's just not going well and there's no real sign of things improving.
And last question here, how can people find out more about you and Hunter Business Law?
Well, I am very active on LinkedIn, so you can go to Sheryl, I think my maiden name's in there, Sheryl Seckel Hunter on LinkedIn. It's Sheryl with an S, Sheryl Hunter. And Hunter Business Law, the website is hunterbusinesslaw.com, so you can find us on there. And my email is hunter@hunterbusinesslaw, and I'm really looking forward to meeting lots of young, budding entrepreneurs who have great ideas and the spirit of an entrepreneur. So thank you for inviting me to speak at the conference.
Yeah, once again, it's been Michael Lukes with Sheryl Hunter of Hunter Business Law. Thanks again for agreeing to come and speak, and we look forward to hearing your talks down in Orlando, October 30th through November 1st.